numbers. They can have meaning. Like 666 represents the devil or something, I don't know. But then, let's talk about one number in particular. The dreaded number 4, specifically with movies. Ah, yes. Dreaded number 4, the one that ruined Indiana Jones 4, Toy Story 4, Star Wars Episode 1, Star Wars 4. There's also some very good 4th entries. Kinda muddles my point. But anyway, let's just talk about the one that truly matters. The number 4. In a movie series tends to not be as good, where everything just slips up and it just hits a sour note and takes a plummet off a bridge. That 4th entry, that's the plummet off the bridge. Now, Despicable Me 4, that should not even be a thing, I feel like. Sure, you can make a 4th entry, but you know what? A trilogy is the perfect format. I'm not saying that the 3rd Despicable Me was any good, but it definitely could have been, somewhat of a conclusion to this franchise. But obviously not. And now I tried to give this the benefit of the doubt, because I thought, okay, it's from the same director of the first 2, maybe there's something of value here. There's nothing here. Absolutely nothing besides the fact that they have 20 different subplots going on, and the Minions, of course, you're probably going to see them at the Minions. Now, it's an interesting story with this movie when I went to go see it in IMAX. Yes, I'm that dork that went to go see Despicable Me 4 in IMAX. Sue me. And let's just now, since I am of legal age, so was my friend that I went to go see it with. Now, let's just say I had a fun time drinking in that movie theater because that was the only enjoyment I got out of this film. The slapstick in this was so atrociously... the story in this was so nonsensical half the time. I could have just been tipsy enough to kind of go like, okay, screw this movie, but I'm having the time of my life just watching it drunk as a skunk. Like, nothing happens in this film. Like, the main plot is literally the villain trying to catch Gru at the safe house, and then in between all that, you get 30, 40 different side plots in this one film. It is the most packed 90 minutes I've ever seen in a children's film. So, let's just get into some of the, plot lines they decide to introduce. Obviously, there was the main villain one, Maxine, Will Ferrell's character, that's all I'm going to refer to him as, trying to find Gru, with his lovely wife, Sofia Vergara. It's not her name, but that's all I see her as, because it's Sofia Vergara. Oh yeah, let's not forget, the Minions turned into superheroes for some weird reason. I guess because they figured, hey, Fantastic Four's gonna come out, let's have our own little superhero side quest. Gotta sell those toys somehow. What else do they have in this film? Oh yeah, Lucy's a hairstylist. Gru's trying to be cool with the neighbors. It's falling flat each and every time. I'm telling you, like, this movie's just so forgettable, I couldn't even tell you most of what happened in this movie. Ah yes, and then you got Gru trying to get the honey badger from his old villain school, and a new villain called Poppy, or wannabe villain, that wants Gru to get back into villainy by stealing the honey badger for some weird reason. Cause sure, why not? I mean, we're just gonna be kicking a dead horse at this point, so let's just do. Oh yeah, and there's a baby in this movie. Not a good sign, the fact that there's a baby in this movie, and it's probably never gonna age because I guess they're all immortal. On top of that, the film is just painfully derivative. If you saw the pictures of the baby, or even the footage from the trailer of the baby, it literally just looks like Jack Jack. Even down to the point where the villain kidnaps Gru's child, and, suddenly just gets superpowers and then just starts like beating the ever-loving crap out of him. So, literally like the ending from The Incredibles. And you near the end, it's kind of a cool moment where the entire cast is singing. Everyone wants to rule the world. All the villains from all the movies, including the Minion movies, they show up and sing it as well, and it felt like a feeling of finality, which I sincerely hope it does end from here, and you get a cameo appearance for like a brief second of Gru's mom and Drew from the third movie. And you get a brief appearance of Dr. Nefario, which, to be fair, it is nice to get those characters back, even if they don't say anything. But, again, there's just no passion, I feel like, behind it. I feel like it's a fourth entry for the sake of having a fourth entry. Like, there's not really much you can do with this franchise, and yet they still feel like they need to pump more of these things out. And I don't know, like, I'm not the voice of Hollywood. I can barely convince, my friends to not drink with me, and, can't really not convince Hollywood to not make another movie because it's inevitable. It's just something they're gonna do. But back to this movie, there's just so much going on. It's just a messy, convoluted, just a very scattershot movie. There's no focus. It has a main plot, but because there's so many other pieces moving around, you're just like, who am I supposed to be following? It is literally just a 90-minute Looney Tune episode, just smooshed into one. And it is kind of unfortunate that it is that way, because I'm not gonna lie, I thought this was gonna be a fun, family-friendly movie. I think they just showed their hand where they just... after the second movie, there's just no point on continuing it. And if they did still do the third one, they could have offered that feeling of finality, but they didn't. And now they're just gonna continue doing this franchise until it's just done. Which... oh my god. But anyway, I don't want to keep this review going on for so much longer than it already has. I mean, I pretty much shared all my points. There's nothing else to talk about it. The story, like, even Gru, Steve Carell, it just sounds like he's phoning it in. And there's not like a whole lot of laughs for anyone. Granted, while in the theater I was a bit tipsy, and I was laughing at some of the Minion stuff. But besides that, most of the kids in that theater, they weren't laughing. They could care less about this film, which really just says a lot. Like, they just looked bored. Now, it's not a boring movie by any means. It's just not as good as I thought it was gonna be. And, again, it's just very dull and bland. It's just by the numbers. It just is constantly moving like it's hypnotized. Like, it's just not hypnotizing, but definitely just makes your brain hurt because you're just staring at constant movement, and it's just not fun. There's nothing there. There's not a plot. There's no sequences that I could point out that are really funny or anything that stands out about this movie. It's so forgettable. I think I've already said my point on it. So I'm going to wrap it all up by let's just hope that the fifth Despicable Me, which God forbid they make, is a little bit better than this one. And let's hope they don't make any more Minions movies. Well, better get the Dos Equis and get the guzzling when I enter that theater.